love bugs, and welcome to the Love Bug Lounge, a podcast about self-love. Tune in, transform, and continue your growth with me, your host Mia Rose, and occasionally my dog Buddha when he feels like joining us. It is so great to have you back for another episode. I can't believe episode 3 is actually here. It is very surreal to even be making this podcast. I know it's episode 3, but it's still so new. And just to be planning episodes, to have listeners, to have feedback, it's been the greatest gift of all. I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas Eve. I love Christmas. I love the music. I love the movies. I love the food. I love everything. The decorations, just the feeling it brings me. It really brings me back to childhood. Part of me was feeling discouraged about making this podcast. Before I made it, even after I put the first episode out, I'm not a celebrity figure. My life isn't extraordinary in any particular way. And I had thoughts about who's going to want to listen, who's going to take my advice or hear my stories or even meaningfully tune in. Because I'm sure there's people that tune into things with no other intention than just to make fun of it. But the love I received has confirmed that moving forward was the right choice. There's something special about real, ordinary people just talking and listening and trying to figure out life together. It's proof you don't have to be a public figure to have a meaningful effect on those around you and to still make people feel seen and heard and understood. I started to think further on where did I get this idea that if I'm not a celebrity, that what I have to say isn't meaningful. And I feel like it's social media. And I'm sure from the title you realize that's what we're getting into today, how social media has affected me. I'm not sure how many of you guys will be able to relate to this, but to be quite honest and vulnerable, there's this underlying feeling I have that if my life is not seen or acknowledged by not just my family, but by strangers, then my life isn't meaningful. It's like consciously I know this isn't true in any sense. So many small things have meaning and make a difference. You know, things that make the local news instead of the national news, even smaller things that make the conversation at dinner or the family group chat, and even smaller things like a sweet note or the smile from a stranger that maybe nobody hears about. All of these things do make a big difference, and they make a big difference when even the person that started the change doesn't receive recognition or have an indefinite amount of views and attention. And I know, even after all of these things leave the news or the topic of conversation, the impact is still there. It was real. It mattered. This topic reminds me of the bees, who are so small, and their individual lives may be so insignificant to us and short, but the impact they make is irreplaceable, and we couldn't survive without them. Like I said, this might just apply to me, but I'm working on retraining my brain that being seen does not equate to being special and therefore worth it, and retraining my brain even further to know that a life doesn't have to be special in order to have worth. With social media, it's hard to feel good enough. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. I recently asked some of my friends on my personal Instagram account, what are some ways that social media negatively impacted them? The most common answer was comparison. It didn't matter their gender, their race, their age, if they had kids, if they had no kids, if they were married or single, or where they lived. For as different as the people were, their answer was exactly the same. I think this is the first factor of unhappiness that social media causes. As they say, comparison is the thief of joy, and as of now, there's more people than ever to compare yourself to. It's no longer just celebrities and tabloids or your neighbor next door. Now it's millions of people with their lives more exposed than ever. Our grandparents just heard that their neighbor went on a trip. We actually see the trip from breakfast to dinner every day. And of course, we only see what they want us to see. Here's another one. I think it's probably more geared towards the feminine viewer, but maybe masculine people can relate as well. I have never in my life, I don't know if anyone in their life, has ever seen as many viewpoints and takes and advice on how to be better living your life, how to be happier and healthier, but ultimately it seems just more attractive. You know, double cleansing, washing your face at night instead of the morning, being vegan, being vegetarian, using raw milk, using beef tallow, being pescatarian, red light therapy, mouth tape, Botox, using feet correcting socks and toe correcting shoes, no red 40, no gluten, no dairy, no seed oils, no palm oil, deep oil cleansing, Pilates, heavy lifting, yoga, steaming. I genuinely could go on and on and on about the things I see daily that tell me that I'm not living my life correctly. And it just adds to this confusing comparison. I mean, on TikTok in the last month alone, I've seen girls with deer faces versus fox faces versus doe eyes versus siren eyes versus apple cheeks versus heart-shaped faces. And there's a new thing every single day that tells you that you aren't good enough or you aren't the ideal woman. And if you were last week, then you're certainly not going to be this week. And women's bodies are literally just made in the trends. And that's not something new. That's something that's happened since the beginning of time, I'm sure. But I don't know if it's been pushed down our throats this much and has had the fluidity and the quick change that it has right now. So let me just stop here and tell you it's impossible to keep up. You have to start loving yourself now, wherever you're at, or you're never, ever, ever, ever going to be happy. Nobody shows you the ugly, even me, whose podcast is about being authentic. I don't show you when I mispronounce a one-syllable word. I don't show you when I stutter and I stammer. Nobody shows you what they don't want you to see. It's crucial to take breaks and remind ourselves that what we're seeing from creators and influencers and even our acquaintances are often, or I would really say ever, they're not ever really reality. The relationship online that looks so perfect, they know it looks that way. They know what they're sharing. It's on purpose. You have absolutely no idea what happens behind closed doors. So take time off from looking at it all and truly be present with yourself, with your loved ones. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but start small. Remember episode 1, start with those micro habits. I was once told that when you promise to do something for yourself, like working out or getting up early, and then you don't do it, you're letting yourself down. And the body receives that in the same way as it would as someone else letting you down. And so you lose more trust in yourself. And when you start trusting yourself less, it's harder to make decisions, and there's really just a domino effect in other areas of your life, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Hearing this philosophy, I realized spending your time doom scrolling or spending hours shifting through different social media apps is neglectful to yourself. You listening might be thinking, duh, I use my phone and social media to neglect the things around me, the things I need to do. But the point I'm making is it's neglectful to your soul. It's neglectful to the relationship you have with yourself. Now, I'm not saying get off your phone indefinitely or every single phone usage is evil, but just compare it to if you're hanging out with a friend. Now, if you're hanging out with a friend and you're both on your phone, you take some silent time together, side by side. I'm all about parallel play. That's awesome. But imagine you have so much to tell your friend. You have so many things you want to do, and they can't give you the time of day because they're on their phone. It's the same for yourself. Time by yourself on your phone isn't really honoring yourself, and I would say isn't really even time to yourself. Your body and mind need time uninterrupted, not distracted, time to process, plan, and complete. For some of us, spending time alone comes extremely naturally. For others, it'll take a more conscious effort, but make it fun. Take yourself on a date, plan a fun day or evening, go to the place that you've been wanting to go all month, go out to eat to the place that you always say you will. You really honestly deserve it. Social media has basically always been a part of my life. I first broke my parents' heart in 5th grade when they learned about the secret Instagram account I had. And at the time, I was only 10, and Instagram was young and it was less restricted. And I think the things I saw only added to the insecurity and need for attention. Unfortunately, the issues that social media brought only grew as I got older. Through the years of middle school and high school, I faced cyberbullying. I also face what they now call sextortion. It created this anxiety that I feel like I'm always being recorded or watched. which sounds schizophrenic, but I promise I'm not. However, I haven't really heard anyone else talk about this anxiety or this feeling, maybe for fear that they're going to be called crazy. Well, or maybe really nobody has it. Either way, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to talk about it. In high school, my most vulnerable moments were recorded and shared unknowingly, and it happens to thousands of people, especially girls. It doesn't help that there are so many other videos and pictures I see daily of people being unknowingly recorded at the gym, in the bathroom, on the plane, walking down the street. It feels as though at any moment in time, a moment of your life can be exploited for views or entertainment. And there has to be something unhealthy about the effect on your body that feeling brings. On one hand, I do think it's good. I think there are a lot of people that were once partaking in extremely harmful and oppressive behavior, and now they know they're more likely to be caught. Surprise, white people, you can't use the N-word, and everyone uncomfortably just shifts and looks around. Now you're not going to college. However, on the other hand, the feeling of lack of privacy, or the fact that there have been so many people that have gone through a world of hurt because someone unconsensually recorded them and made fun of them and used maybe a vulnerable moment or just an embarrassing moment for laughs. It doesn't seem fair. For me, it's gotten to the point that I don't even feel comfortable dancing sporadically in my own bedroom. My bedroom that nobody's in, and I know the best, and I know there's no hidden cameras or someone peeking at me through my window, but I always feel the need to kind of look around or perform. The feeling of the fact that someone might record you or take advantage of one of your moments, it's stopped so many people from just experiencing life, from trying new things, from making mistakes. And how many people have also acted completely out of character just for attention or a shock factor. And how many people do I see on TikTok that are doing something that's really, really sweet for their partner, but in watching it, I realize they're holding a camera or a phone in their partner's face the whole time just for a reaction? How many creators have I seen use giving to people that live on the street as clickbait, and haven't ever really thought about what it would be like to be on the receiving end of that, to have someone giving you money, giving you food, but they're holding a phone in your face for your reaction the whole time. It's extremely dystopian, to say the least. I don't want to sound like your mother, tell you it's that damn phone. And I know social media has so many benefits. It connects us with friends we no longer see. It helps us get in touch with loved ones we never met. It connects us to like-minded people, showing us that we aren't alone in how we feel or what we believe and what we like. Not to mention the ample learning opportunities it provides. I know I've learned more about history from TikTok than I did from school, but it's a slippery slope. I feel like the need for validation that social media encourages sometimes causes us to forget aspects of our humanity instead of strengthening them. For instance, I think social media has caused us to forget the reason that we even do art, the reason we sculpt or draw, the reason we create or watch films, the reason we dance or write or read poetry or paint, or why we even enjoy fashion. A lot of it now, I think people feel like it's for views, or they change their art to get the dopamine hit, to get more views. I think many creatives now think more about fitting in the lines or doing what's expected, when art is supposed to be storytelling, it's release, it's therapy, it's supposed to send a message, it's supposed to resonate and hit your heart. Art causes conflict and movement and change. And the shift to me is extremely scary, and I feel like it actually is shaping our culture and the art we're producing a lot. I think the best example I could think of how people's perspectives are changing on this and this phenomena that I've been recently realizing is the most recent, well, I don't know if it's the most recent, but what critics have recently been saying about Doechie's music. If you're not caught up to speed, they're basically mad or making fun of her, but I honestly just think they're uncomfortable with the fact that her music isn't degenerate. It touches on bigger topics. It makes you think deeper, makes you notice the world around you. Her music is human. She shows up as she is. She speaks on real life issues and things she faces from day to day. And I think that makes people uncomfortable, but she had a really great response. She specifically is talking about Black artists and the music they've created and how it's influenced America and influenced media for forever. But I really think the message that she gets across, it applies to all art. Without further ado, let me read it. She says, our music has always been deep. It's always been complex. It's always been soulful/spiritual. We use hip hop to evolve, to protest, to celebrate, etc. Art/music plays a role in why a lot of us are proud to be Black today. Our culture is all through these genres. Don't let these people brainwash you into disconnecting from the soul of hip hop by convincing you that it isn't cool or it's quote unquote too deep. It's always been that deep for us, and it should stay that way. We've created it. Once we lose the soul, we've lost the genre. Nobody should be redefining our art form but us. Anybody talking shit about hip hop that makes you think or makes you feel something should immediately be recognized as an op. Ask yourself what they gain from watering us down, our music, taking our soul out, only discussing surface level topics and becoming less conscious. Only a specific group of people benefit from us not being introspective. Tighten up. She's exactly right. And I have nothing to add. And I hope you really hear that message. And I do want to say, I think light and meaningless music has purpose. In some ways, it brings us together. It's fun. It also distracts us from what's going on at the time, which sometimes is needed, but there's a time and a place. I think social media has let us indulge in the want to be distracted and deeply involved in ourselves while allowing us to keep craving the need to be pacified when we need to feel discomfort in order to grow, to make a difference for ourselves, but for others as well. Coming back to relationships though, I know many couples meet on the internet. Couples are able to have better and easier long-distance relationships than ever before. Couples are able to meet even when they live in different parts of the world, which I honestly think is beautiful. But speaking for myself, there was a time, and admittedly, social media did make my relationship worse. My For You page started innocently enough about some stories and information on weaponizing competence and what the mental load is in relationships. I liked it. I thought it was extremely informative, but I'm not really sure when the switch happened. Within a very short amount of time, 95% of my For You page were stories of terrible men, of terrible boyfriends, husbands, fathers, and I was angry and weirdly felt like it was my partner's fault. I felt like somehow because he was a man, he was responsible for all these other men's behavior. And my communication came a lot worse and snappier and shorter. And it wasn't till I took a break from social media that I even realized that was the reason why. It's clear to see that social media can influence us extremely quickly without us even realizing it, and it can affect our everyday real life. I think the most harmful way I see this influence is when it comes to relationships. So many young people don't want to settle down or don't have aspirations of finding their person, and when they are in a relationship, they're still not happy because of this illusion of options that social media has created. There's constantly the question of, is there actually better out there? At any given time, you could find thousands of people to compliment you and stroke your ego and hit on you and like you. It's also made cheating that much easier. And I think in some people's mind, a lot of what they're doing isn't cheating. I think there's even a term for what it's become on social media, micro cheating. I mean, think about what it was like cheating in the time during the landline, when if you lived with your partner, whoever you're cheating with could call the house and your partner might pick up, or they might listen in on the line. And whenever you saw the person you're cheating with, you would actually have to leave in order to talk to them if you weren't, paging them or talking to them on the phone. And then someone you might know might see you out in public, versus now when there's hidden DMs and messages that disappear as soon as the other person views them. There's accessible porn everywhere. It's a lot more accessible to not be loyal. And I think a lot of people don't view liking a half naked girl's photo as cheating, when and before to view a stranger half naked, they would have to actually provide a Polaroid or show you that photo, which in that case it would be cheating. And I'm not here to tell you how you should or shouldn't have a relationship and what you should or shouldn't allow, just that social media is the cause in the shift of thinking for many of us. This episode has low-key gotten very kind of negative and scary, and that's definitely not what I intended for it to become. But it's important to all my listeners in this very small community to know that if you struggle with any of these thoughts or anxieties, you're not alone. And there's probably so many more people out there struggling with the same exact things than you ever knew. I know there's been more awareness brought to this more recently, but I want to keep this conversation going. Social media is not real life. It's something I used to always have to remind myself, and now it's just annoying. But the most confident people you see are probably dealing with the same exact insecurities or the same exact thoughts you have. And there are times that we feel alone and isolated, and we're viewing the perfect friend groups and the perfect trips and the perfect families. And there are going to be times when someone looks at your posts and they think the same exact things. And this is not me asking you to stop posting your very lovely friend group and your very lovely trips and your very lovely family. Just remind yourself when you are the person that feels alone and feels like your life isn't a good comparison to what you're watching, remind yourself of this moment. So what are some things that help me? Honestly, creating this podcast where I can be myself, where I can do something I feel proud about, a place that I feel safe, others feel safe, and giving myself a platform to be more raw and honest. This podcast has been a huge help in how I interact online, how I interact with others, how I view the world. But what are some things that I did before this, or what are some things you can do if you don't want to create a whole podcast? For one, unfollow all of those people that whenever you see their posts, they make you dislike yourself. They make you dislike your life. And if you're not going to unfollow every single person, unfollow at least the micro celebrities or influencer or the real life celebrities. At least that's what I did. And I felt the shift as soon as I did. It's simple, I know, but when there's not photos to trigger you into thinking, ugh, I wish I looked like that. I wish I had that body, or because I seen this photo, I don't feel hungry anymore, or I wish I had what they had. When there's not photos triggering all of that nasty storm of thoughts, you're happier with who you are and where your life is at. There's a difference between creators who inspire you and push you to be the best version of yourself and those that make you want to live in their skin. This is something I've done a couple times before, but I really, especially in 2025, I really want to consistently start doing this, but take 1 week, just 7 days each month to just not be on social media at all. I'm not be on your phone, just don't be on social media. It doesn't have to be the same week every single month, but whenever I do this, the realignment and the recharge I feel is amazing. So I just know that if you give yourself that break to just be with yourself every month, it could do nothing but good. Also, you probably know what I'm going to say next, but be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Social media is addicting. They made it that way on purpose. And not all of us are going to be able to set the phone aside and not check back in. Habits are hard to break, and your brain likes routine, and getting mad at yourself is not going to help the process. I'm not sure how many times I've set my phone aside and promised not to go back on it, and then made excuses for why I absolutely had to, or deleted an app and then found a reason to re-download it again. But slowly and surely, I am getting better. I am changing. I'm getting better, and so will you. You have to start somewhere, and the most important thing is that you start and keep trying. I know I sound like a little lead coach, but isn't that why you're here? Isn't that why you found this page? To just be a place that's a tiny short little break from the harshness of everything else. Isn't this page just supposed to be a place to know that there's at least somewhere that you don't have to be anybody else or show up as anyone but yourself, and know that you're going to be accepted? This is going to sound very corny, but I'm asking you to do it in the privacy of your own company. There's no harm that could come from it. Find one insecurity you have. For me, it used to be my nose. Find one insecurity you have and tell yourself If you do it in the mirror, you get bonus points. But tell yourself 3 times that you love that thing. I used to look in the mirror over and over and look at myself and say, I love my nose. I love my nose. I love my nose. And every time I had a negative thought about it, or I wanted to say something bad about it out loud, about anything, not just my nose, my hair, my body, my belly, I would out loud contradict it and say out loud, I love my belly. I love this thing. So if you have no insecurities, that is amazing. And I love that for you. And I commend you. But if you're like 99% of the other human race, like I said, if you do it in the mirror, I feel like it has extra special magical effects. But I won't make you do it right now because you might be listening to this on a bus or a train or a car or on a walk. But I am going to hope that you do this because it does help. Find one insecurity and tell yourself that you love that thing 3 times. Anyways, love bugs. Feels like a good place to go ahead and end. It was so good talking to you this week. I hope your Christmas is very, very, very merry and bright. I'm sending extra love to those that aren't with their family this Christmas, or this is just an especially difficult time for one reason or the other. As always, feel free to reach out and join our family at the Love Bug Lounge. And I know I say this every time, but none of you have done it. So send me some ideas for future podcast episodes. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you want to hear. Share this episode and give it some love on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And in doing so, it'll help it reach those who need to hear it. I love you guys so much. I will see you soon. Okay, I'm done. Imagine I wasn't recording the whole time. I am though.